Hello and welcome to IMC Radio and Podcasts.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're exploring the top news headlines from February 24th.
Yeah, should be interesting.
From international incidents to potential political shifts.
Lots to cover.
We've got a lot to unpack, so let's jump right in.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's start with a story that unfolded thousands of feet above the Caspian Sea. An American Airlines flight en route to New Delhi from New York
Oh, wow.
had to make an emergency landing in Rome
Really?
after a bomb threat. This incident brings to light the constant challenges of ensuring safety in international aviation.
Yeah, for sure.
It really makes you think about the effectiveness
Right,
of security measures.
right.
Even with all the advanced technology we have in place, the details about the threat are still emerging. But Italian authorities wasted no time in responding.
Good.
They scrambled Eurofighter Typhoon warplanes to escort the aircraft to safety, and thankfully, all 199 passengers and crew
Wow.
disembarked safely in Rome.
That's a relief. So, was there anything else, or is that it?
Well, what's particularly interesting is that this isn't an isolated incident.
Oh,
India has actually seen a concerning uptick in bomb threats targeting flights recently.
interesting.
Remember back in October 2024 when an Air India flight was also diverted because of a similar threat? Makes you wonder if there's a larger pattern at play here.
Yeah, could be.
It certainly raises questions about security protocols and whether they need to be reevaluated. Now, let's shift gears to a major political development in Europe. Germany just held its federal elections,
Okay,
and the results could significantly reshape the political landscape.
I see.
The outcome of this election could have ripple effects throughout the continent. The conservative CDU-CSU bloc won the most seats, but they fell short of a majority. What's really grabbing headlines is the surge of the far-right ASD party, which captured nearly 20% of the vote.
Wow, that's big.
So what does this mean for the formation of a new government?
Well, it means that the CDUC will have to negotiate a coalition with other parties to form a government. And the process could be quite complex and drawn out. There's a lot of debate and concern surrounding the possibility of the AfD being included in a coalition, given their far-right stance. It'll definitely be interesting to see how this all unfolds and what implications it will have for Germany's role in the European Union.
Speaking of international tensions, there's a story that's sending shockwaves across the globe. On the third anniversary of the Ukraine war,
Oh, wow.
an explosion occurred at the Russian consulate in Marseille, France.
Oh, no.
The timing of this incident is incredibly symbolic, happening on the very day that marks 3 years since the conflict began. What makes it even more complex is that it occurred while French President Macron was meeting with U.S. President Trump to discuss the ongoing war in Ukraine.
Wow, how about that?
It's certainly a tense situation. Special police forces and soldiers quickly responded to the scene. The Russian consul general confirmed that the blast originated inside the building, but the cause is still under investigation. The Russian Foreign Ministry has already labeled the incident a terrorist attack, which further escalates tensions. It will be crucial to see how this event impacts the already strained relations between Russia and the West.
Right.
It's a delicate situation that requires careful consideration. Now let's turn our attention to a story involving international finance and allegations of corruption. U.S. authorities are looking into payments made to Sambo Dasuki, the former national security advisor of Nigeria. This case spans continents and highlights the intricacies of international financial dealings. Dasuki is already facing corruption charges in his home country for allegedly mismanaging funds intended to combat Boko Haram.
Oh, I see.
But it seems that suspicion about his financial activities have been swirling for quite some time. Back in 2002, Dasuki bought a horse farm in South Carolina, paying nearly $1 million in cash. This transaction raised red flags with U.S. immigration officials, who questioned the source of the funds. Documents show that in 2007, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services sent a letter expressing concern about the lawful source of the money used for the purchase.
Wow, that's a while ago.
Later, his wife's application for an immigrant investor visa was rejected due to inconsistencies in their explanations about the source of their wealth.
I see.
This case really sheds light on the challenges of combating corruption, especially when it involves transactions across borders. It emphasizes the urgent need for increased transparency and accountability in the global financial system.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, turning to a tragic story that reminds us of the potential dangers lurking in the digital world. A 13-year-old boy in California,
Oh, no.
Nnamdi Glenn O'Hare Jr., tragically died after attempting a viral TikTok challenge.
Oh, gosh.
This heartbreaking incident illustrates the very real risks associated with social media trends, particularly for young people.
It's sad, but true.
The challenge, which bears similarities to the Blackout Challenge, encouraged participants to choke themselves until they passed out. What makes this case even more alarming
Yeah.
is that Nnamdi didn't even have social media accounts. His parents were very strict and had parental control set up on his phone.
So how did he even...
This suggests that he likely learned about this dangerous trend through other means, perhaps from friends at school or in his community.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a stark reminder of the need for open and honest conversations with young people about the potential dangers of online trends and the importance of critical thinking. Parents, educators, and communities need to be proactive in educating and protecting children from harmful content online.
Yeah, it's so important.
Now let's move on to a story about efforts to combat drug trafficking. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, in Nigeria successfully busted an international drug ring, leading to the arrest of a Thai woman at Lagos Airport. This case demonstrates the global reach of drug trafficking networks and the critical role of international cooperation in dismantling them. The woman was apprehended as she tried to smuggle in a large quantity of Canadian Loud, a synthetic strain of cannabis.
Canadian Loud. I've never even heard of that. What is that?
That's a new one to me too. Canadian Loud is a relatively new synthetic strain of cannabis that's gaining popularity in certain circles. Its potency and potential health risks are still being studied, but its emergence underscores the constantly evolving nature of the illegal drug trade. It's clear that law enforcement agencies need to stay one step ahead of these trends to effectively combat drug trafficking.
For sure, they've got to keep up.
And this bust is a testament to the dedication and hard work of the NDLEA in disrupting these criminal networks. Now, shifting our focus to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, we have a rather surprising development. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hinted that he might be willing to step down from his position in exchange for peace.
Really? Wow.
This statement has set ripples through the international community. It's a significant gesture that highlights the immense toll this war has taken on Ukraine and its people.
It has been a tough few years.
His willingness to sacrifice his own position for the well-being of his nation speaks volumes about his commitment to peace.
Yeah, it does.
It remains to be seen how Russia will respond to this offer, and whether it could be a potential path towards a negotiated settlement. It's certainly a glimmer of hope.
I hope so.
In a conflict that has caused so much suffering. However, it's important to remember that the situation remains incredibly complex, and a peaceful resolution is still far from guaranteed.
Yeah, good point.
And finally, we turn our attention to a story that sheds light on the challenges of maintaining security in rural communities. A violent clash erupted in Edo State, Nigeria, between cocoa farmers and suspected produce thieves, resulting in multiple fatalities.
Oh, that's terrible.
This incident underscores the vulnerabilities faced by rural communities and the difficulties in ensuring safety and security in these areas. The clash, which escalated over the weekend, left at least 7 people dead and several others injured. It's a tragedy that has deeply affected multiple communities in the region.
I can only imagine.
It highlights the need for more effective law enforcement and community policing strategies in rural areas, where resources can often be stretched thin.
I see.
It's a reminder that security challenges can arrive anywhere, and we must be prepared to address them proactively. So we've covered a wide range of events today, each shedding light on different facets of our interconnected world. From international incidents to political shifts and social tragedies, it's a lot to process.
Definitely a lot going on.
These events remind us that staying informed and engaged is crucial. They challenge us to think critically about the world around us and consider our roles in shaping a better future.
Well said.
Indeed, each of these stories presents its own set of questions and challenges that we as a global community need to address. But it's also a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and our capacity for compassion and action. It's in these moments of crisis and uncertainty that we truly see the importance of unity, understanding, and a shared commitment to building a more just and peaceful world. And on that note, we've reached the end of part 1 of our exploration of today's top news headlines. Join us in part 2 as we delve deeper into the potential consequences of these events and discuss what they mean for the future.
Looking forward to it. These events we've discussed, they really highlight the need for looking at things from different angles, don't you think?
They do, like take the German election, for example.
Right.
It's easy to just focus on what happens right away with the far right gaining more power, but to really understand it, we need to look at the history.
Exactly.
All the things that have led to, like populism and nationalism becoming more popular, not just in Germany, but in all of Europe.
Yeah, across the board.
And with that explosion at the Russian consulate,
Right.
it's important not to jump to conclusions.
I agree.
You know, it's easy to blame someone, but we really need a good investigation before we can say what happened for sure.
Absolutely. We need to look at everything, all the evidence, and not just go with what we already think.
It shows how important it is to think critically, especially with so much information out there these days.
For sure.
We can't just accept everything we hear. We have to question it analyze it, and decide for ourselves.
Couldn't agree more. We need to be smart about the news we consume and look at it from different sides to form our own opinions.
Now, changing gears a little, one thing that stood out to me in a lot of these stories
Yeah.
is the importance of personal responsibility.
Oh, totally.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the world's problems and think our actions don't matter, but that's just not true.
Absolutely not.
Like with that tragic death of the young boy,
Oh, no.
tee up to that TikTok challenge. It shows how important it is for us, parents, communities, to teach kids about the dangers of social media.
Right.
We need to be open and honest with young people about online safety, about thinking for themselves and making good choices.
Absolutely.
And more broadly, think about the case with Sambo Dasuki. It's a stark reminder that corruption can happen anywhere,
For sure.
and it's up to all of us to hold those in power accountable.
I agree. Transparency and accountability are crucial in fighting corruption. People need to speak up against wrongdoing, demand more transparency from institutions, and support efforts to make ethical standards stronger.
It's a group effort, and every voice makes a difference. Now, a lot of the problems we face today, terrorism, drug trafficking, climate change,
Right.
these things go beyond borders.
They do. They're global issues that need global solutions.
Exactly. And that's why working together as a global community is more important than ever.
You're right. We need stronger international institutions, more collaboration between countries, and to work together to find solutions that help everyone.
Think about the conflict in Ukraine.
Okay.
A peaceful solution will require many different groups working together to calm things down and find common ground.
I see your point.
And remember that bomb threat on the American Airlines flight? It shows how important it is for countries to work together on aviation security. Sharing information, coordinating safety measures, and working together to prevent things like this from happening again is so important.
For sure, for sure.
It's clear that we're all connected. What happens in one place affects everyone else.
It really does.
Our actions have consequences that go way beyond what we might see immediately. Which brings me to another point.
Okay.
While staying informed about these events is important,
Yeah,
we also need to stay empathetic and compassionate.
absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in the news cycle and forget about the real people whose lives are being changed by these events.
That's true.
We have to remember that behind every headline there are people experiencing fear, grief, uncertainty.
Right.
It's a call to see the human side of these stories.
Yes,
And to offer support and compassion to those who are hurting.
I agree. Now, these events also force us to ask some tough questions about what we value and what's important to us as a global community.
Like what?
Well, like the rise of the far right in Germany.
Okay.
It makes us look at what leads to those extremist beliefs and have real conversations about addressing the concerns of the people who are drawn to these movements.
I see.
And the corruption allegations against Sambar Dasuki,
Mm-hmm.
it challenges us to look at our own part in systems that create inequality and injustice and to push for more transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
It's a call to examine our own values and actions, to work towards creating a world that's more just and fair.
I agree. These stories also show us that what we do with individuals really can make a difference.
It can.
Even when faced with huge challenges,
Right.
people have the power to create positive change.
You're absolutely right. Think about Nnamdi Glenn Jr.'s family. They're using their tragedy to raise awareness about the dangers of social media,
It's awful what happened.
to advocate for better online safety measures. Their actions could save lives, protect other children from harm.
That's so important.
And think about the cocoa farmers in Edo State. Despite the violence and loss they've faced, they keep fighting for their way of life and for justice. Their strength and determination are truly inspiring.
It's amazing.
It reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's always hope.
There is.
These people and so many others around the world show us that every action, no matter how small, can help build a better future. And they remind us that we all have a part to play in making that positive change happen.
Definitely. Now, I want to go back to Zelensky's offer to step down. What do you think about that?
It's a bold move, that's for sure. It really shakes things up in the world of politics.
It does. It makes you think about what it means to be a leader, about sacrifice, and about really putting peace first.
Yeah, it brings up a lot of those big questions. Do you think it could actually lead to peace in Ukraine?
It's hard to say right now. It depends on a lot of things, like how Russia reacts and if other countries are willing to help find a peaceful solution.
Yeah, that's true.
But at least it opens the door for more conversations, which is good, right?
It is. It changes the whole conversation and makes everyone involved rethink where they stand.
It reminds us that even in conflicts that seem impossible to solve, there's always a chance for things to change, even if it's a small chance.
Right. Before we finish up, I want to talk about one more thing that's come up a lot today.
Okay?
Finding balance.
Balance, what do you...
Balance in every part of our lives. Between knowing what's going on in the world and taking care of our own mental health.
Right.
Between doing something about those problems and finding moments of peace and happiness in our everyday lives.
It's a good point. It's easy to get lost in all the news and feel overwhelmed by everything that's happening.
It is. That's why it's so important to do things that help us stay grounded and calm.
Yeah.
Spending time in nature, being with loved ones, doing something creative, even just taking some quiet time to reflect.
I agree.
It's all about taking care of ourselves so we can be more effective in making a difference.
Like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And taking care of ourselves isn't selfish. It's actually really important for creating a better, more compassionate world.
That makes sense. It's about finding that balance where you're informed and active, but also calm and strong.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, as we wrap up our exploration of today's top news headlines, I hope you're leaving with a sense of understanding and also feeling like you can do something.
That's the goal.
Understand the complexity of what we're facing, but also feeling empowered to make a positive difference in your own way.
I like that.
Remember, everything you do matters, no matter how small. Talking to a friend about an important issue, volunteering, supporting organizations doing good work, even just choosing to live a more conscious and kind life.
All of it.
Each step we take creates ripples and contributes to building a better world.
It does.
So stay curious, stay informed, stay involved, but most importantly, stay hopeful. Because hope is what drives us all towards a brighter future.
Well said.
Thank you for listening to today's top news headlines on IEMC Radio and Podcast.